What's up, you guys? So today I want to give to you all a long overdue video, my heavy weapons tier list. As a heavy main, I probably should have covered this like a year ago, but I guess I just had other things planned. So anyways, I get asked a lot though from new members of my Discord or new viewers to the channel, Joey, what do you think of this weapon? What do you think of that weapon? What do you think of my favorite minigun? And so basically today, I'm not going to be going over my longest descriptions that I could for each individual weapon, but I'm just going to be giving like an overall ranking of how I think the weapons fall into play and some of their uses and which ones I would honestly use more often than not and which ones I would recommend more often than not to use. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So I think obviously with the Tomislav, if I didn't put that at top, I don't think anybody saw this coming as a surprise. If I didn't put that as the top, many people would be upset with me, because I've gone into long detail over why I think this is the best weapon in the game for heavy, with the stock versus Tomislav video, the stock versus Tomislav 2. I just think it's got more bang for your buck. I think it's got the quicker rev, I think it's got the better accuracy, I think it's got the silent rev, and when I've put it literally side by side against a bot holding a stock minigun, it beat it out. So it's almost objective to me at this point that the Tomislav would be better. So really no surprise there for long-time viewers. Moving on to the Natasha. The Natasha is a really fun weapon to me. It always has been. I enjoy using it. The only problem with the Natasha is that it's just slow to rev and it doesn't have the most damage output. It really helps against like scouts and any other quick moving type of enemy, like say a soldier that's rocket jumping all across. But as far as its damage output goes and how slow that rev is, it's just not the best. But it's not the worst either. I wouldn't say it's the worst by any stretch. So the Natasha I'm probably going to put at C. Again, it's not the worst, and it is fun, but it is definitely not the most practical. I would say that this is kind of like a starter minigun for a heavy that's just starting up. If you're having problems tracking, this would probably be a good gun to start working with. So now onto the brass beast. This used to be my bottom of the barrel. I used to infamously call it the trash beast. I hated this weapon. But after like an update or two and seeing how the damage resistance on this thing can really come into play with that higher damage, although it has the slowest rev time because of that damage resistance and the damage output, it actually doesn't make it that bad. And on top of that, if this was like an MVM tier list, this would be absolute god tier. This would be top. Tomislav would actually be moved back to bottom. So I'm gonna say the brass beast now sits for me at B. It's not the most useful. I wouldn't use it all the time, but it does have its uses, and in the right hands, it can be well used. So now the stock minigun. The stock minigun, if you're gonna say that this is just the stock, that this is where you start as the heavy, you can only go either as a side grade, an upgrade, or a downgrade. I would say it's below the Tomislav. I would say the Tomislav is still the top. It became an upgrade. And then I would say it's still above, though, the brass beast. So I would put it around B, because it has the quicker rev, and normally for a regular playing heavy, that is going to come into play, and that is going to affect how you play. So I would say stock. These are the two miniguns that most comp heavies are actually going to use, too. And then lastly, we have the Huo Long Heater. So the Huo Long Heater is a really fun weapon to use. It's really fun. And I actually even saw a tier list that Banny did where he said that because it can have such damage output against players that are on fire, that it could be put on the same level as, say, like maybe the stock, or I forget, he might have put it on the same level as the Tomislav too. My only argument to that would be, if you have to have somebody with you at all times to make your gun work, I don't think that makes your gun as good as another gun that's just as good as it is by itself. So with the damage drain and just how kind of ineffective the flamethrower effect can be around, I mean, it's cool if you get in close quarters, but a lot of the times that's just not always the case. I'm gonna actually say that one of my favorite guns to use and look at, besides the Tomislav, is actually gonna be D tier now. It's unfortunate. I think a really easy fix, though, to that, I've said it before, they could just take away that damage nerf at the beginning where you go from 100% to a 90% damage output, and just make that regular like the stock, because the nerf of it losing ammo, would already be enough to make it a kind of balanced and a weapon you'd really have to have a lot of strategy to use well. So anyways, moving on now to the lunchbox items. So the secondary banana. This might be another touchy subject, much like the stock versus Tomislav. So I know a lot of people really like the secondary banana. They like that you can throw it more. They like that it heals so much and that you can obviously use it more and throw it more. But because the sandwich is more preferred by medics and that it heals more, I'm gonna have to say that this should belong in the A tier, that it wouldn't outdo the sandwich. I don't think, even if you want to make the argument, well, but you can throw health to your teammates more, that's not a heavy's job. The heavy's job is not to be a walking dispenser, a slower version of the medic. So with that being said, sandwich I would put as the S tier, as still the supreme sandwich. The supreme food item. Next, moving on to the DeLocas bar. If the banana is at A and the sandwich is at S, DeLocas bar does not belong in the B tier. I can't say it's that close of a call. I would actually put then the DeLocas at C. The DeLocas can be used in some good circumstances, and some would even argue that if you use the DeLocas bar when you're at full health, it'll put you to 350 health, and then instead of having to wait for your health to drop to 150, for you to get, say, like a damage resistance to kick in with the Natasha or the Brass Beast, that it would kick in at like 175. So it could be a cool strategy. But that being said, you're not always going to sit at 300 health, and when it comes time for healing, this only gives you 100. So it's a little niche that only really comes into play a couple times, and the 50 health just doesn't seem worth it to me. And a lot of the community agrees on that, a lot of the heavy community. Finally, going on to the buffalo steak sandwich. This is one of my favorite concepts. It really is. I just wish that Valve will someday update it and allow it to give you health, because then you're still locked with the melee, and it would still be challenging to try to attack anybody that's attacking you with all of their normal weapons. Like, attacking somebody with only melee when they've got a rocket launcher, they've got a sticky launcher, they've got arrows, whatever it may be, is already going to be a challenge. So why not allow this thing to give you health if you're still going to make it to where a heavy can only use their melee? That's my point. But for now, unfortunately, one of my favorite concepts ideas, the buffalo steak, would sit at D. If they buff it, I'm putting this up to B. But if not, I'm putting it at D. It does have that one use that some people say in comp where you can use it at the very beginning of a round to rush up to the point. But if that's like the only thing it's got going for it, the rest of it still kind of sucks. So, next, moving on to the melee weapons. So, the Holiday Punch, I've said forever, is, to me, the top melee weapon. However, literally just maybe a month ago, maybe a few weeks, I actually kind of changed my mind on this, because although people would say it doesn't have a downside, sometimes it not doing damage from the back actually can be a little bit of a problem. And on top of that, it can shut down uber pushes, yes, and that's what makes it really effective, but that only works so often. Or you have to have a crits medic with you. Because of that, I'm going to put that at A, and then I'm going to put the Fist of Steel, that will always work, doesn't have to have any crits or a random crit to work, at S. As far as what this is used for, it's incredibly effective. Yes, it does have the nerf, which some would say, well, why would you put the Holiday Punch below it when the Holiday Punch has no nerf? Well, just stay away from enemies that have like a melee type attack, because that's its only real nerf. But as far as it being like a really good escape plan, it does what it's intended to do every single time, and that's why I would put the Fist of Steel at S. It's a very effective escape plan. Moving on, the Killing Gloves of boxing are one of the funnest melees to exist. As soon as you get a kill, it gives you another critical right after that, and then you can get another critical. If you combine that with the stake, and you did it well, it's so fun to use. Because of that, and because its only nerf is like a slower firing speed, I'm going to put that at B. I wouldn't quite put it at Holiday Punch level, and I certainly wouldn't put it at S, but I'd put it at B. And I would actually, you know, while it's up there, I'd say the stock fist would go there too. Because, you know, it's stock, yeah, so you'd think maybe it should be up there with, like, say, the stock minigun, but you can't not say the Holiday Punch can outdo the stock, and you can't not say the Fist of Steel would be more useful than the stock, in my opinion, so I'd keep that at B. Moving on to the eviction notice, I have never liked the eviction notice. Even if it's like a JoJo meme, even if it's like, oh, it's so cool, it's edgy, it's got your brass beast, your brass knuckles there. I don't like it. I've always looked at it as like a lesser version of a Guru. Yes, you would lose more health, but still, it's kind of a trade-off. It's like, do you want to go faster and you're going to drain health faster? Sure, but you're going to get to where you want to be quicker, or do you want to be slower, lose health, and then you might get to your team at a later time when something has already passed. On top of that, I think the Guru works much more effectively as an escape plan for the heavy. Man, I'm mixing my words now. And by the way, that brings up the point, where's the Gru? Where's the Gru? Okay, so we've got our Gru. Basically, I think that the Gru is a little bit better than the stock. I would say, for practicality, it might even be a little bit better than the Killing Gloves of Boxing. I don't know that I'd put it on the same level as the Holiday Punch, though. So, because of that, I really, if I had like one more tier, I'd put it right in between both. But since I don't, I'm gonna put it at the B level. I wouldn't... This is used typically by a lot of heavies that want to use it as like a way to get up to the front lines quicker, but it does drain your health, and on top of that, you know, teleporters do exist. I don't think it's needed. So that's going to be B tier for me. And lastly, for the melee weapons, we have the Warrior Spirit, which is one of the funnest melees to use. Much like how the steak is one of the funnest food items to use. Incredibly fun, not the most practical. But you know what? If we're comparing it to all these other ones, I would at least put it on the level of the Eviction Notice. I would at least put it on the level of the Eviction Notice. Because it packs so much power, and it does give 50 health per hit. And it would do great on the group keep, and maps like the group keep. So, yeah, that's where I'd put that for now. Lastly, we are going on to the shotguns. So, I'm going to make this real simple for you guys. I could do this where I actually try to dissect, like, oh, which shotgun I think would be better, technically, but all the shotguns are pretty garbage for heavy. They just are not needed, unfortunately, for heavy, because a good heavy should always be keeping in touch with their ammo, and also, pretty much the minigun, like, outdoes a shotgun in, like, every way for the heavy. There's not really much practical use for the shotgun. So, because of that, I'm gonna put each shotgun at D tier, except... maybe the Family Business, because I will say this, the Family Business, since it can switch out so much quicker than the regular stock shotgun, it does come in handy if you have some use for crits right then. Say you were going to run out of ammo in your minigun, that then could be a quick swap off, and if you had crits, that could work. But more so than you maybe running out of ammo with a minigun, if you had the Killing Gloves of Boxing, that's the go-to shotgun to go to. It's super quick, would do a ton of damage, and can shoot pretty fast. So I'll give it the C tier, and hopefully that's not too much of a controversy for the heavies that are watching this. But yeah, this is my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this doesn't bring too many tears amongst the heavy mains out there, and until next time, later.